Here is the next generation of the popular 3D printable grid system for the Elgato Keylight. No more supports or rafts. No more gluing parts together. One frame, no matter if you use the light in the horizontal or vertical orientation. And stackable grids for variable grid depth. All available to download for free from MakerWorld. At the end of this video I will show you what a difference this grid system can make. So stay tuned. Let's start with the frame that we mount to the Elgato Keylight to hold the actual grid. In the old version I made separate frames for horizontally and vertically mounted lights. But if you like to switch things around from time to time for perfect lighting, you would have to print two frames. Also, the frames needed to be glued together, which sucks. To fix all of that, I came up with this, a single frame with dovetail connectors, which means no more glue. The frame now also has 4 fixed mounting points, which these little mounting brackets slot into. So for horizontally mounted lights, you use these 2 mounting points, and for vertically mounted lights, you use these, all with the same frame. The old frame also needed to be printed on a raft and in this orientation, which makes the side that's facing the user the ugly one, because that's the one that's printed on the raft. And we all know how horrible these surfaces look when you rip off the supports. Now you can just print the frame this way. The top layer is facing the user, and you could even use ironing on that. And then I wanted to get rid of the rafts altogether, because they're slow to print and I generally hate supports. So why did we need rafts here in the first place? When the 3D printer lays down very long continuous lines of filament, even an easy to print material like PLA starts to detach from the build plate, because the long lines create a lot of tension when cooling down. So these ends tend to curl up, or sometimes these round corners don't like to stick down because there's force pulling this way. So I tried something and it works like a charm. I designed these little notches into the bottoms of the frame pieces so that the first few layers never have these long continuous lines, but rather short sections. No extreme tension can build up in the first layer, and adhesion is much better. So this is printed without rafts, without brims, and it came out beautifully. So let's quickly slide these 2 frame pieces together. Attach those little mounting brackets. One here, and then another one on this side, because I'm using my light in the horizontal position, and I'm gonna use these 2 mounts for mounting the frame, and that's the frame done. Oh, by the way, I also included some 1/4" bolts in the project file, just in case you don't have access to 1/4" screws. The 3D printed ones work surprisingly well. Now let's look at the grids. In the previous design, I provided grids of several different depths, so you could pick a depth that fits your needs and print that. The grid depth determines the light emission angle, and you can find the angles of different depths in the description on MakerWorld. Just like I wanted to be able to switch between horizontal and vertical lights, I also wanted to be able to change the grid depth without having to print a bunch of grids with fixed depths. So the new grids are stackable, and they align and click together nicely with these inbuilt tabs. I made grids with 10, 20 and 30mm depth, and you can stack these however you like. For example, if you wanted a 40mm deep grid, you could stack 2 20mm grids, or 1 20 and 2 10, or even 4 10, or a 30 and a 10, of course. In the grids I also added those tiny notches in the first layers, and I was able to print the grids without rafts. However, these sharp corners sometimes did detach from the build plate, so I added mouse ears, which you can easily cut off using flush cutters or a razor blade. So this new generation of my grid system for the Elgato Keylight is much faster to print, because rafts are slow and make extra work. The result looks much cleaner, because the user-facing surfaces are top layers, not supported bottoms, and the result is much more flexible to use. One frame for horizontal and vertical lights, and variable grid depth with stackable grid pieces. Of course, you want to print everything using black filament. PLA is perfectly fine. Now let's see what this grid is good for. Currently, there is no grid on the Keylight, and no other white lights are on in the room. Two things to see here. First, of course, the amount of light on me, and second, the amount of light on the shelf and things in the background. Also take note of the saturation of the RGB LEDs back there and how the white light washes out the colors a bit. Now let me put in a 40mm deep grid. Okay, the grid is in the frame. Again, check the light on me and the background. Let's compare. Here's before and here is after. Before and after. With the grid there's almost no light spill onto the background and the colored lights don't get washed out and look much more saturated. But also note that the overall light output is reduced slightly by the grid in front of the light source. To compensate, just turn up the light's brightness a little, or if you're already at max brightness, change the exposure settings on your camera. And just for fun, this is a grid depth of 20mm. This is 30mm, this is 40mm, and this is 40mm on the whole light, plus another 10mm on only one half, to minimize the light spill on that side, but maximize the overall light output. You can get a bit creative here. So this is my setup now. I still have the same light source size, which gives me softer but directional light, and the grid has essentially eliminated any spill onto the background, which gives me beautiful saturated RGB colors. I figured out the best slicer settings for each piece and pre-configured everything for you to start printing immediately in the file you can download for free from MakerWorld. I spent a lot of time to perfect all the models and settings, and if you appreciate my work then please like and boost the model and post your makes over on MakerWorld. Like this video and subscribe to the YouTube channel, and drop a comment below if you have any questions or just to say hi. For free Blender tutorials, check out the other channel. Subscribe and support below. Thanks for watching. See you soon.